But this is where the rubber meets the road, and people have to have an intensity to understand that our kids are not healthy right now. They're really not. The 20% of kids in the United States are obese. 30% of North Carolinian adolescents are obese. A more shocking number is that those 30%, 80% of those are going to go on and continue into obesity into adulthood to get the most out of your workout. If you're going to dedicate the hour, dedicate it. Take the steps to get plugged in to some sort of community-based sort of gym, in the sense where they are going to get you plugged in with a community of people that are going to gather around you, and you guys are going to strive for the same purpose. You want to become healthy for yourselves, for your kids, and for their generation. Hey everybody, thanks for joining in to the Desolate Joe podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Adam Saucerman. I created this specific podcast series to be a relaxed and casual dialogue with our comedic and thoughtful co-host, Mr. Joe Williams, punctuated with relevant and lengthy dives into vital functional medicine concepts that can have a profound effect on your health and the health of your family. As always, feel free to check out our other podcast series and resources at www.desolatehealth.com, where we attempt to pursue and purvey the most relevant and cutting-edge health information in various forms to fulfill our mission of reconciliation and healthy living. Also, it is important for me to say that the content provided on this platform is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as medical advice or a substitute for professional care. I'm a licensed physician, but the information shared here does not establish a doctor-patient relationship. Always consult your healthcare provider or a qualified medical professional regarding any questions or decisions about your health or medical conditions. Do not delay seeking professional advice because of information you have read or viewed here. Now let's get to it.
Yep. Camera's dialed. Mike's hot. Coming in hot.
Coming in hot.
Good
hot
morning.
Mike.
Good morning for another cup of Joe with Joe.
Good morning. You better be awake because I'm going to wake you up if you're not. And it's not my show. It's Adam Saucerman's show. Desolate Health.
This is the Morning Joe Cup
Episode.
of Joe show. Well, we still don't know yet. We still got everybody's got to. They've got to tell us. We got to look at the. I really do want some groupthink on this. How do we name the show? I think I like the spin with the Morning Joe with Joe is nice. But
I do too.
There's a huge collective creative brain out there, and I would love to see what it's going to churn out.
Yeah. I mean,
maybe we should ask ChatGPT or Grok. Say spin this for us, bro, and see what it throws out for us.
See what they come up with. Some kind of fancy coffee phrase I've never used in my life, because of AI and all that.
Sure.
Morning Joe is a show, I think, on NBC. But their ratings are going to plummet.
Come on, Trump. How bad is it?
Well, let's just say they're probably going to get bought by Elon.
Oh yeah.
I think Elon's buying CNN, if I'm not mistaken. No, it could be a rumor.
You're joking, right?
I'm not joking. I mean, in my mind, I'm not joking.
Yeah.
But is it really going to happen? I mean, they're cleaning house in every aspect of what we've known to be normal.
Yeah.
Media and government.
That's right.
But we'll talk about that some other time.
Hold on. See if there's somebody has a political podcast. I mean, we're trying to promote health in whatever way. I mean, I guess there is some, attachment here to the government aspect.
Well, yeah.
I think that hats off to Bobby Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy, for, he's going to have some major opposition for sure out there. I think that there's some people who really probably dislike Robert F. Kennedy, but I think that he is boldly proclaiming something that a lot of people in the Western Hemisphere and maybe other places in the world too that are developed, but our children, again, demonstrably are not as healthy as what they once were. They're metabolically far less healthy than what they once were at a different time. And we as people who really do, if we genuinely care about our kids and our people, we should be driving so hard on this point because it is a tragedy for us to let it go. And I like the fact that I really genuinely think that there's going to be some change in trying to understand the whole picture and why and what, because there's more contributors, like as if this is just choice and, well, our food's just got a lot more sugar and, people need to be living better lives or they need to move more. It's deeper than that. I definitely think there's some, a lot of credit and some evidence to suggest that there are things such as obesogens or even the negative impacts on your at a cellular level that is causing disruption to the metabolic process, which is going to downstream contribute to weight gain. And ultimately, it's not just about the mass of the human. It's because there's people who actually have large body physique that are pretty doggone healthy and will live a life that looks like somebody who's pretty healthy.
Yeah.
But there's people who don't have a significant amount of body mass, but yet they are unwell. They are very sick on the inside. It's anyways. So hopefully we'll get to the bottom of that, and I'm looking forward to more interest and money being pushed into studies and really trying to evaluate what's going on in our country.
I totally agree. I think we're in a weird place where people, okay, let's just say middle-aged people are taking care of not only their parents, but they're taking care of their kids in a different way. Like,
I love the sound, but I'm gonna try with that. We'll see how it goes.
Try it without.
I might have to put them back on because
try it without. If it's not comfortable, if you want to hear my voice a lot deeper, closer to your ears, put them back on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the health crisis. I mean, for me personally, my family, we really have to make a conscious effort to minimize anytime you leave the house and get food. I mean, it's a risky game you play, and if you continue down that path every week, there's just some families that are always going out to dinner, lunch, breakfast, you name it, and not everyone's schedule is the same, and I get that, but it does take proper planning to. You can't just hit up the drive-through every day.
Yeah,
it's going to kill you. It's going to kill you a lot faster than you think. So,
literally.
Yeah, and so we certainly try to minimize those outings. Like once a week. It's a staple in our house, and I'm not being biased, but we'll go to Burrito Shack.
Here comes the plug.
Here comes the plug. One of my great friends, Dave Longo, Burrito Shack. Oh my gosh! And wherever you're listening
I
from,
salute Dave. I think he is created, as far goes as going somewhere for fast food, if you want to call it that.
Yeah,
it's a great product. He pays the expense to have high quality ingredients in food, and it is delicious.
It is chef curated. It is not created by a big private equity firm.
Yeah.
Like some other burrito places you may be familiar with.
Right.
And so that's why it's so damn good.
Yeah.
And in this quick crafted coastal Burrito Shack.
Oh, I love it. A little afraid that's coming from somewhere.
Well, it's on the side.
Is that the slogan?
It's on the side. Yeah.
And coastal.
I didn't make that up, but I am the voice of Burrito Shack.
I mean, there's something to be said. So this is a locally owned, locally operated individual. So he franchises out, but these people are following his playbook.
Right.
And they're essentially going to be held to the same spec and get the food at same quality, same places that he's probably buying the food from. They probably have to do some logistics and sourcing because maybe they can't source some because he's clear on the West Coast as well. Is that right?
True, yeah. And I remember him telling me he's in Lake Havasu, Arizona.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
which
awesome.
is a sweet place.
But the point being is that Dave has total control over what is being sold and served. And so instead of, and not, disparaging any necessarily public company, but you take something that becomes a public company, ultimately it's beholden to the shareholder, and the shareholder, they want money, and sometimes it becomes nearsighted, and they see that they can turn the dials in certain directions to create a nearsighted profit, and that's usually spending less on the quality food or getting a less quality food for a cheaper price. That's going to ultimately equal higher profit margins because as a general rule, people aren't going to change their behaviors yet. But over time, people start to recognize that this isn't the same stuff. It's not the same food, and then all of a sudden you start to lose some customers. And that is probably, I don't have any examples, but I am sure that you can find examples of great companies, privately owned, got very big, very successful, sold out to become a public company, and then subsequently driven by some public company, chosen board to become your typical fare and loses sort of its heart and soul for the sake of profits, and you end up walking the balance in the wrong direction.
Sorry about that.
Joe's a popular guy. It's all
popular
good.
guy here. Popular guy.
So
I think I know who that one is. That's probably someone trying to sell me a car or something.
anyhow, yeah. I hope Dave and whoever else, I hope they try to remain that private status. I do like the private status because I feel like there tends to be, especially people who are really closely linked to their customers in the local areas, because they're much less quick to turn the dials for that extra little profit. There seems to be they recognize the long game and they keep playing it. And to our benefit, Dave makes a fantastic product.
Yeah, I mean it's great that it was born where we're living. So.
This was the restaurant. It's a restaurant that's actually started across our street, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Is that the very first shop right
That
here?
was the first one, yeah.
Amazing.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I've known him back in the day from the golf world we were both in. He would keep me alive. I was living a different lifestyle way back then. I would wake up at probably 11 a.m. I'd have a late night, wake up at 11 a.m., if you don't know anything about sleep, you should probably tune into the sleep episode. We talked about that. And so, yeah, I'd go in and go straight to the restaurant. Dave, I need chicken tenders and fries. And then I'd close at like 7 p.m. and then rinse and repeat. You know, I would do that. So, but man, that was an unhealthy lifestyle back then. So,
sure,
I'm glad I learned from it. So.
I don't know how I could spend to bring Dave on. Dave's an entrepreneur and a successful guy, and probably has some things to bring to the table. But maybe I would potentially bring him on the show sometime, and we could talk about, I guess, quality of food and what he does in the restaurant business. Because I think if nothing else, he could give us some insight in what's happening on the other side in a lot of places. You know, it's an opportunity for him to plug his restaurant, but you know. He essentially is a chef. I mean, he's the one who created the sauces and pretty much everything that's there in British Shack, which are
he's been in fine dining. He's studied. I mean, he's traveled the world. He's been there, done that, and got a few T-shirts hanging up in the closet. So now, then that's what sort of helped him create Burrito Shack. So very proud to see that. So
here, I'm going to take us back. We were talking about we were talking about obesity and sort of metabolic disruption. So let me throw some facts out here and just blow your mind. I've probably said this on some other content I've created because it's mind-boggling, and it's literally made me change course of sort of what we do in our practice. You know, generally I take care of people on a one-on-one basis. Usually they're coming to me because they're looking. It seems to be aesthetics to some extent. They're wanting to lose weight, or how can I be more healthy? But I'm seeing a transition or a movement more towards where people, they generally just want to be healthy. They recognize the value add. Like they spend $100, plus dollars probably on their YouTube TV subscription, and it's like, how much is your health worth? And ultimately, if you can prove or show that, I can bring far more value than that, I'll contest that. I think that. Your TV subscription or whatever, I think investing in somebody who is dedicated to health that can help over time. The struggle is I wish that you could just, somebody could just spend whatever, $100 if that's what somebody's in charge, and then they fix your entire life. But that's just not the way it works. Same way with investing. I feel like a lot of stuff is like an ongoing process. But I feel like I've seen more now of a movement of folks who are much more, they're more in tune with just wanting to be overall healthy for themselves and for their kids. But this little offshoot that we've done, and this is sort of a plug for our program, if anybody ends up watching this, to know that we have been working here on the side to create a program for kids. And it literally goes back to this fact that the USPSTF, the United States Preventative Task Force Service, I think that's what it is, the USPSTF, they basically did this nationwide look, and if you look at the obesity in children in the United States of America, it's breathtaking. So 20% of kids in the United States are obese. If you look at North Carolina, 30% of adolescents, I don't know if that was different in the USPSTF. I think it was actually adolescents. It was 20% of adolescents. In North Carolina, the census that was taken, I think in 2000 and it might have been 2010, might have been 2000, closer to 2020. But 30% of North Carolinian adolescents are obese. A more shocking number is that those 30%, 80% of those are going to go on and continue into obesity into adulthood. I saw this. It was like someone hit me in the face with a sledgehammer. It's like, you got to do something. We've got to, even if it's not personally me, I want to start putting pressure on that area of society, of culture, of the world. I want to see kids be healthier. That's like the Bobby Kennedy,
the Maha.
Things. Yeah, the Maha. But legitimately, you take children. I mean, it's a whole different breed where, children's lives, especially before they're, really involved in a lot of things, much of their learning is through physical activity anyways. They're picking stuff up and throwing stuff down and building stuff and tearing it down and just play. So it's like they're always moving. Metabolically, they're very active kids.
Yeah.
And they tend to be lean. Like overwhelmingly, children just down through time have always tend to be leaner than their parental counterparts. We get all these responsibilities. It changes our lifestyle, our eating habits, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
But so you look around and there's just so many kids who are looking more like adults would have looked like from probably like 1980 or something. And so now our children look like 1980 adults. So like what's our, 2000 and because now the 2020 kids, what are they going to be in 2040? These kids are going to be, it seems like a tragedy to me because right? It's a whole lot more difficult to stay lean and mean Joe, right? At this point in your life than it was whenever you were 19 or 20. You sort of had
a full-time job.
100%. So you're mindful and thoughtful of it so that we're letting our kids continue to go on at this sort of state. And I feel like in some sense, like it's not that we like have all good desire for our kids, but in reality, we're to some extent we're enabling it. We're ultimately the gatekeepers to our children. Like, what do they eat? You're the one who's going to the grocery store and shopping.
Right.
You're the one who's setting down the food or not the food. 100%. I mean, it's like my heart breaks. I get it. I empathize with the people who's working 70 hours a week, both parents or something, and they're trying to make do. But this is where the rubber meets the road, and people have to have an intensity to understand that our kids are not healthy right now. They're really not. On average, sure, there's still some kids that are healthy out there for sure, but the amount of children with already chronic disease and metabolic syndrome is mind-boggling, and something like the tables need to turn drastically. And at the end of the day, the parents are the ones, they're the gatekeepers. They are the ones who like need to start really investing in the health of themselves and their children because, as you get older, and this would be a segue in talking about compartmentalization of our exercise and fitness and stuff. And this is why I'm a huge proponent of the gym. Kids can obviously they have sports and stuff, but as you get older, how many sports are you playing these days, Joe?
Yeah.
How much playtime in the backyard running around freeze tag or you got going on these days, Joe?
Right. What's my sport these days? Boy, that's like trying to make it to the gym.
So there's a lot of social things as a child that are, sort of built in that are very active and sort of continue that process of being metabolically active. But as you get older, it's just sort of fact of life. If you're working, you end up having to learn how to compartmentalize certain parts of your life because there's just not really time necessarily for other things. So you have gym time. Like you how often do you go to the gym?
Probably 4 times a week on average right now.
4 times?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I tell you,
that's saying something.
The life hack is getting up early. I mean, do I want to do it? No. But I do it because I have to not worry about how I feel so much.
I just had sat down with my wife a couple days ago and we did a podcast. And I was just wanting her to share with people because have you seen my wife recently?
She's been getting shredded, it looks like.
She is shredded. She is transformed dramatically over the last 6-7 years. And I feel like it's really been like, man, holy smokes.
Yeah. Like, she's going to put you in a headlock.
Mary's quite the beast. Careful. And I was like, she's an example. That didn't happen in 1 year. It didn't happen in 2 years. It didn't happen in 3 years. It's been just this slow, steady process where she's been consistent and there's been these changes. And I feel like it was good for her to come on
and talk about her journey, how like some really important facts that got her to get her there. But one of the points that she made was just the very thing is a big thing that's changed for her. She gets up early in the morning. It's pretty much the only way that she's going to fit it in if she doesn't do it. And it's so hard for people if they try to tweak that schedule to get to that point.
Yeah.
But if you can get there, once you can get there and you sort of get it set on, you're like,
yeah,
what the freak was I thinking? Why haven't I been here this entire time?
I'm glad I did that.
You agree? I mean, do you agree? I mean, can you vouch for that?
I totally agree. It's a habit now. I mean, I think I'm naturally, with the help of an alarm, waking up at about a little help from the alarm,
Who needs the alarm?
on airplane mode. Is the
That's a plug, airplane.
airplane mode.
Do you have some sort of like? I wonder if they make a baggie or something to like seal off like.
There's something I've seen.
I imagine there probably is, but I don't.
I think we had one, and it was just kind of silly. Like,
Sure.
is this really working?
Again, I think we talked about it last time. I'm going to dive. I'll go down that
That's
rabbit
one to
hole.
dive in on.
I'm going to at some point. Mark me. I don't know. Yeah.
There's the people out there that are listening right now that will be listening or viewing. They're going to be like, they're AirPod people that have their little pods in all day long. I'm like, dude, you're gonna fry that brain up. But we'll save that for another time.
Yeah.
But yeah, getting up early is key. It's necessary. I mean, look, if you think back to it's always a dad flex. Sometimes it'd be like, yeah, I got up at 5 a.m. What have you been doing, knucklehead? Like at 7 a.m.
that.
I'm like, oh, this guy. I'm like, who cares? I'm never gonna be that guy. I'm never gonna get up 5 a.m. What are you doing at 5 a.m.? You sitting in the dark staring at the wall or something? There's nothing good on TV, especially back then when it was just TV.
Which is great.
Which was great, yeah.
No, I'm saying it is great, yeah.
Oh, it was mindless back then. It was almost more exciting. TV now is not the same, but anyways, it's something else. But yeah, getting up early is key. Because if I don't fit it in at that time frame, it's almost like the point of no return. Like the day starts, and then I say, oh yeah, I'll go at lunch. I'll go at lunch break. And then I'll find myself working through lunch or something. And, I feel like I have gone through different career paths where I'd go into an office every day, and heck, there was 10 years of my life where I'd go in at 7 a.m. I'd have to be at work at 7 a.m. It's a 30-minute commute. So leaving the house at 6:30, get off at 5 p.m., 30-minute commute back home. I mean, you're like, where's the day? The day's gone.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, the only time I could work out then, that's when it really started, was early in the morning. I'm like, man, if I'm gonna change my life I'm gonna have to suck it up, and you have to make the conscious effort.
There's some big proponents of it out there. I think it's is it Willenick, Jocko Willenick? He's like a
Jocko,
former Navy SEAL podcaster, kind of does media, a lot of
great
media, has written
leader,
some book stuff. Yeah, he's big on leadership, but I think he has the 4:30 a.m. club or something.
He's the 2:30 club probably. Who knows? Mark Wahlberg's like that, 3 a.m. So it's just, I'm like, come on, guys.
I'll be honest.
That's pretty
based on
crazy.
circadian rhythms. There's probably some scientific suggestion that that's probably not necessarily the best cycle to be on, because that's
what time is Mark going to bed?
Unless you could somehow magically shift, but human beings are so in tune with the light that plays a significant role in our sleep-wake cycle. As a general rule of thumb, someone could prove me otherwise. I'm more than happy. Someone could comment or message me or give me some scientific data. But I mean, I've spent a lot of time on sleep, and as a general rule, probably one of the most important times for you to be asleep is that late night hour right before sort of the sun's coming up, that 3 to 5 o'clock zone, because overwhelmingly your circadian rhythms, it tends to be this, you sort of get and two, sleep's probably the most important at that point, but you get this cortisol spike, and all your physiology starts to shift to start moving you towards wake up phase. But as a general rule, I think before probably 4:30 is probably not necessarily scientifically backed, but kudos, if people are doing it consistently enough, they're probably in pretty good shape. I'd rather them get up early at 4:30 as opposed to staying up late and sleep late for sure.
Yeah.
But I love the 5 o'clock in the morning, 4:30, 5 o'clock. Most people can't hack that, but I mean, if you get up 5:30, go be at the gym at 6 o'clock, be done at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Your whole life would,
I would be blown away if your life does not transform just by that one step, as hard as it might be.
Yeah, it's very hard because I absolutely hated life when I first started doing it. I'm like, what is this all about? I'm like, and there was a gym class at 5 a.m. and it was back when I was doing CrossFit. For me personally, that was sort of the start of like, all right, early workout, hardcore workout, Pantera music playing at 5:30 in the morning. That gets me going. But yeah, so I hated that. Anytime I'd see a 4 on the clock, I'm like, no. Body's telling me, don't do it. Don't get up. Yeah. And so then I started, well, of course, my career changed a little bit, which allowed me to kind of sleep in, so to speak. So I almost tricked myself. Like waking up at 5:15 felt like I was sleeping in, or 5:30.
Yeah.
And it's still early.
Yeah.
So you just got to trick yourself.
Or just if you do it enough, very quickly.
If you do it enough, yeah.
Your body tends to settle into that very
easily.
My wife, I brought all that up. Mary had started waking up early, getting her workout routine in, and that's really transformed even me to some extent, which isn't great because my schedule still tends to be a little more disparate or sort of all over
doctor life.
All over the place, yeah. So sometimes, I might be up all night, which makes it difficult. Now, I'm not full-time emergency medicine anymore. I walked away from that because at the end of the day, it's not healthy. I wish there was some way.
Is that something that we want to maybe touch on a little bit more? Like, why'd you walk away from the game?
From the game. So I feel like for the purview of podcasts and for everybody listening, I guess some major factors without going into a ton of details. I would say that I was full-time emergency medicine for about 10 years, and we were in a private group and with some of the best physicians that I've ever worked beside in my life or been around, some of the most intelligent people that I've ever been around. And I think that we together really created a really good workforce to manage and take care of the emergencies in our sort of the greater Wilmington, North Carolina area. A lot of things slowly had crept in. One, and why we're literally standing here today is my seeing this recurring theme of people in the emergency department. Again, going back to ballparkish, probably have seen 50,000 plus people in my lifetime. You see this recurring theme over and over and over. They're not there because they just needed a pill or they just needed this thing. Overwhelmingly, it is the millions of decisions they made in their lifetime that have brought them to the point where now they're having a stroke, now they're having a heart attack, whatever the crisis is. And it eats at your soul depending on who you're. Not everybody, it doesn't have to, but for me, for my makeup and who I am, the whole time, I can't get away from the fact that I care about this person and I need to be talking to this person 30 years ago. Because sure, I can apply great feats of mankind when it comes to the medicine that we practice and the things that we do to make a positive impact after the pathology has already struck, the catastrophic heart attack or whatever it is. But I want to go back to that 30 years ago person and be able to just share some insight to help them sort of avert this whole crisis to begin with, instead of being 60 years old with a heart attack and then subsequently they're developing heart failure, they're going to have arrhythmias, then they get an ICD placed in their chest and their exercise tolerance and their physical capacity goes down dramatically, and slowly these things accumulate and they're living sort of a much more sterile, I don't know what you would call muted life for the next 5-10 years. And then
it's like damage control.
Finally, it finally offs them the rest of the way. Now there's amazing, like we've made leaps and bounds in medicine. There's people who are going to be 85 years old, had a cabbage 25 years ago, and they're doing still great. But that's not necessarily the norm. So anyhow, just going back, seeing those people, it sort of tore at my soul to see these people, knowing that, I want to go back and help these people. So it's kind of like, I have all this capacity. Why aren't I doing something about it? Or it just was kind of eating at me. It's just another way where I could, care for people. It's very gratifying or satisfying if you've helped somebody, just period. Yeah. So that was like one big piece of it. Also, like paired with that is, as a dad and a husband, I got settled into medicine, right? So I'm working in my group. We were pretty good about scheduling ourselves, so I wasn't working as crazy hours as most people would think. Like we intentionally sort of schedule ourselves much more in a lifestyle way. We would hire for our group so that we tended to be more fat. So we're working closer to like say 30 hours a week as opposed to working 70 hours a week.
Yeah.
There's the downside. We're staying up all night, at least, averaging probably 3 to 4 days a month that we're staying up all night, probably averaging more than that. But
yeah,
that just totally wrecks everything. But so take the piece of wanting to, being able to get to these people before the catastrophes happen. And then, simultaneously, during that period after things have settled and I'm much more sort of in the groove, you can kind of not take away attention, but I'm more focused on, and I've got kids coming. It starts to tilt my focus a little bit to where now I have more time because I'm able to sort of, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing in the emergency department. I know what we're doing, in the boardroom when we're making decisions about the group or whatever it is. And your life's much more sort of efficient. You can devote some more attention to other things. And one of those things was, why did Jimmy have that heart attack at 50 years old? Because I don't want to be Jimmy. And Jimmy is a ficticious person. I'm not naming anybody, but let's say, John Doe, why did he have the heart attack at 50? I don't want to be John Doe having a heart attack at 50. Mm-hmm. And I have the medical school education for that. WVU gave me a crushing, amazing education to be a doctor.
WVU.
Yeah. Mountaineers, baby.
Yeah.
All day.
You want to sing this song?
I mean, I can country, bro, but that's what I would really sing. So anyways, all right. Anyhow, so I started to devote a lot of time towards understanding just like primary health or just overall health because I wanted to be healthy. I started having kids. I'm responsible for my wife and my kids. I want them to be healthy too. Mm-hmm. And so I really, started to get into the weeds of the whys, and it's always been my thing. It's always why. So
yeah,
reading a ton, studying a ton, and becoming more and more sort of knowledgeable about these things. After a while, you can't just sort of keep it to yourself. It just seems stupid that you will have. It's kind of like I don't want to make some analogy. It'll take too long, but you can't keep that stuff bottled up. It's crazy. It's like now you're seeing people. Like I'll be at the gym. This is a classic one. I was talking to my wife the other day. There's a guy at our gym. I won't mention his name. Doesn't even matter. But he was He brought his like plastic Sam's bottles or whatever it is, plastic water bottles.
Yeah.
God help me. So
what was in the plastic
why does it got to come back to plastics? But it's just something so small and simple, and it maybe will not be the thing that did it. Yeah. But the reality is, it's all of these little tiny things that we're doing on a daily basis that adds up to 60-year-old John Doe with whatever problem that is, neurodegenerative disorders, heart attacks, strokes. I could get into plastics or in people's like blood vessels in their neck. I could tell you a study. I think it was in JAMA. It's crazy. I'm not going to get sidetracked, but long and short of it is you're seeing people all around you and you can't not say, hey, just so you know, you might be doing something that's hurting yourself. I mean, it's almost mean to just let somebody do something that's unknowingly they're just sort of, this is normal cultural or accepted thing. And it's like, actually, there's probably a better way to do it. Like get yourself a stainless water thing that you use for the rest of your life. Stop. It's better for the environment.
Get rid of those plastics, man.
Better for your body, better for the environment. Like 10 bazillion reasons why you should not do it. Reusable, blah, blah, blah. So that was like number 2 is I've got this head full of stuff. I got to share it with somebody. One of the big nails, or I should say the nail in the coffin was my dad got sick when it's been 2 years ago now. Mm-hmm. He came to my house.
Yeah.
And I had seen him. I mean, obviously.
How old your dad?
Dad is 66 now.
Only 66. So he got sick a couple years ago. And what was, refresh my memory, what did he come down with? Or
it's prostate cancer, stage 4 prostate cancer.
Okay, so for us men out there talking, listening, it's a real thing. It's a real problem. Get your prostate checked.
It is. So we can talk about that, all me and Joe.
But there's
an example. I don't know.
Let's go back to Pops here. Go back to Pops' story.
Does getting your prostate check have any morbidity, mortality, like long term? Do you live longer if you get your prostate checked? That's actually a topic of debate, Joe. But we're not going to go. We're not going to go there.
I've heard some things on that.
No, this is like you again. I think the USPSTF, United States Preventative Task Force Service. I could we could talk. I'm pretty sure they're the ones with the recommendations, unless it was a Corcoran. But anyways, just drop all that. All right, here we go. It's too much information. But so Dad came to my house. This was in the wintertime. They were planning on going across the country, and when he came to my house, I think he went down and they were going to go, but they sort of turned back. Or maybe they had just come back. I can't remember that piece of it, but I know that when I saw him, he had lost weight, like without question. He had a sickly look about him that I've never seen in my dad. He had made some mentions of other things that made me concerned, and I even reached out. I'm kind of like, Dad, that's like worrisome. You probably need to talk kind of indirectly without, because I try not to be. I'm not his doctor. I'm his son. But I try to. That's balanced with. Sometimes you just. I gotta say something.
I mean, it's a tough dynamic to balance.
He was at my house, and he actually, I was already, something. He didn't look right. Didn't look healthy. I've seen 50,000+. It's kind of like looking at dollar bills. You're like, what's supposed to be right and what's not. Like just a quick look, and you're like, that's not right. Something's wrong. Yeah. You don't know what it is, but something wasn't right. He passed out at my house, which is very unusual for my dad as well. I think he had done it one other time in his life, maybe a couple years before that.
Really? At your house?
He had passed out. He was having these pains in places that he shouldn't have been having them. Dad has some aches and pains. He's got, I probably genetically even inherited his back. He's got some back problems, hip problems. But he was hurting in oddball spots, and that always scares me because people with metastatic cancer, they can have bone pain, like where cancer starts to grow on a bone. It can be exquisitely painful. Yeah. And he was having pains that didn't feel to me at all just simple muscular or myofascial kind of pains. I was worried. He's lost weight. He's passing out in my house, looks sickly, and, he's hurting in oddball spots. And, I maybe Mom had mentioned about his eating, and I'm just nausea. I haven't really had desire to eat or something. And I'm like, Dad, like you just literally, like for all intents and purposes, you have cancer until someone proves you don't after what you've just showed me and told me. Yeah. I'm like, just talk to your doctor, get literally a CT scan from your chest down, get whatever checked to go looking for it because it's going to be there. And sure enough, Dad was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And it was on his bones. It was on his pelvis, on his spine, on his femurs.
Oh my gosh.
So it was literally life-changing. I've pronounced people, Joe, and this is for anybody out there, man. If you could come and walk in my shoes, eventually you get sort of numb to it. I don't know if there's any other way to do our job well other than become sort of numb to it.
I can only imagine.
But I walk in a room and it's like we do all these things. The person's dead. Okay, time of death, 11 o'clock. All right, walk out the room. Hey, how are you? Nice to meet you, Dr. Saucerman. What brings you here today? We just walked into a room. Let's say it's someone 45 years old and they found him cardiac arrest and we're pushing on his chest and shocking him, giving him meds, and we don't revive him. He's dead. I call the time, wife or mom's out the door, wailing.
Yeah.
It's
life
just
totally changed. You're like, all right,
next room,
call
room
your next
57.
case.
Hey, Dr. Saucerman, nice to meet you. So this is like the life I live. So I'm extremely intact or close with death all the time. I deal with death all the time. And I believe internally that I think that I'm more comfortable with it than I probably would be if it wasn't my job, because the reality is I know that you're going to die, Joe, and so am I. And it's liable to happen in the most random place. You're liable to be driving down 40 and come through the intersection and someone's just going to full on, 70 miles an hour, just crush you and you're dead. That's just it. So I see that, it's a constant reminder of how fragile we are and how fragile our life is. But it hits totally different whenever it's a family member, and that's just the reality. Maybe it wouldn't be that way for everybody else, but I dare say that if you talk with someone who's got to be someone who's around death, but then it's, say, their best friend or a family member, the close, like when it hits close to home, there's still this abstraction, which is a good term to call it, but an abstraction element between me and some other person that I have no clue they are. They're just a dead body there at that point, or they showed up, and it's a little bit harder sometimes if you talked with them and they died. Like you're talking with them and then you go back and all of a sudden someone's calling a code and you go back and you're like, what just happened? Jenny's nobody that I've ever taken care of. We'll say Jane Doe. Yeah. Been back there and now she's dead. Those sometimes are like hit a little bit different, but Dad, being sick, it wrecked me. I think it wasn't as much about wreck me. It did wreck me. I love my dad dearly. Like
Yeah,
I am 100% who I am, both genetically, like mentally, spiritually, because of my dad and his influence, and I thank God for it. But I think the thing that changed was the fact that, whenever, I guess because of dad getting sick, it really made me question my mortality in the sense of I'm 40 years old.
Yeah.
And in reality, I've seen plenty of people in their 40s who die.
Yeah.
Not as many as their 50s and not as many as their 60s, but there's people in the 40s that get diagnosed with some sort of terminal cancer or have some catastrophic event.
You're questioning what am I doing? What am I here for?
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Like,
even if you have a strong faith, in which I do, and I know that you do, still though, you're going to run into those days and moments that are going to realign you with what you're supposed to do. And I think that's why this podcast has started. And I
feel like you plug the podcast hardcore, Joe. I love it.
Oh, well,
good.
Look, I thank you for having me on, first of all. But no, really, I think it's a great thing that what you're doing here. So I think it's inspiring to me too.
So in that, I would say, going along with a lot of other things I would promote to people, is what are you doing with your time?
Yeah.
You 100%, your time's limited. It is not endless. In everybody in their early years, it's really hard to grasp that concept.
Yeah.
And it was a big deal when my dad got sick. I hate to even take it away from just being caring for my dad, but it can't help but make you reflect personally of what exactly it is that you're feeling.
Yeah.
And I like felt at that point 100%. I can't be getting a little bit lost, because I think that if someone outside looking in, like I had the allure of, sort of living the good life. I feel like I had a good job. We have some like financial security. We get to do a lot of fun things.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't want to just continue on in a sense of like a rat race, as if it's just this. Let's just see if we can make a bunch of money, have like a good retirement, and make sure that I get my kids like, fed and roofed and to college or whatever it is. Even those are fantastic aspirations.
Mm-hmm.
But I had lived to a little bit different than probably most people would have lived over the last 10 years, which has helped give us, I think, the financial freedom in some ways to rearrange my life however the heck I wanted to rearrange it.
Yeah.
And I want to like make a difference in this country, in this world, from a health perspective, and we need more and more people. I would encourage other doctors, because there's a bunch of doctors who maybe if they stumble on this thing, that are out there asking these same questions, like, what am I doing? I feel like I'm just caught in the machine, because healthcare dramatically in 2024, it feels like just an industry where it's just this machines. We just sort of do what we're supposed to do, and we just keep stamping it and churning it and stamping it and churning it. It's like, just keep it sending down the line and keep running it through. And it's like, what are we doing? There are great things that are done in the healthcare, like industrial complex, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. But we're missing it. We're missing hardcore. And this is my opportunity to jump ship or just pivot in what I'm trying to do with my life. And this may never be my, so to speak, full-time job. But I don't really, like right now, I don't really have full-time. I work sort of part-time now, still keeping up Merch Mess because I love it to death. I've always loved my job. That's the crazy thing. I've absolutely loved my job. And it really has given me an incredible foundation from a healthcare perspective. Again, because I've had the opportunity to see everything.
Yeah.
And it's been good to be able to see a lot of things in the acute setting. But also, too, I've got to know a little bit about everything, or a lot about everything. And so the foundation it's built and created, I'm like eternally thankful for, but I'm just super excited, for what we've been doing over the last year and a half and pivoting in towards just following my passion and my dream of making a difference in people's lives. I mean, it feels good. It feels good. I enjoy it. And whenever I see the change in other people's lives, you can't beat it. It's the greatest thing ever. And so I'm sort of it's a string there that's for me to pull, and I'm going to pull it with all my might.
Well, much respect for that. Because, I mean, to actually be able to follow a passion, to actively pursue it, you put yourself in a position that you've earned it. You've worked hard towards it. And for myself, perspective sort of hit me when I made a career change from, I was working for a large company, decided I didn't want to be part of that company anymore. I wanted to try something different. I was sort of chasing the dollar.
We talked about it.
Yeah.
That's
And by doing that, I realized quickly in the last year, or up until spring, that it was taking a toll on my health.
Yep.
It was taking a toll, physically, mentally. It was eating up my time.
Yeah.
And whether you're, for me personally, it's just me personally, the stage I'm in life with family and trying to take care of a family and all of those things, it just wasn't a good fit for me. And for what I did, it gave me perspective. I can't really talk negative about the job.
Sure.
I knew what I was getting into, and I gave it a try, but I gained perspective out of that, and where I'm at now is incredible. It's you might, if you've seen any other episodes on the podcast, I mentioned the word holistic, and the company I'm with now has a holistic approach to work, and that's right in line with where I need to be.
That's awesome.
And so I'm able to actually going back to like waking up early.
Yeah.
I don't even have to anymore with this company.
Yeah.
But I do it anyways.
Yeah.
Because I get those extra 2 hours in a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, taking care of myself was important. Otherwise, I couldn't take care of anyone else.
Sure.
So.
Sure.
But yeah. So.
What's on your heart? Anything else? I mean,
man,
we need to
what time is it?
I don't know. What time is it?
It's about that time.
Is it about that time?
I don't know. We got time. What do you want to talk about?
I don't know. Talk about you, Joe. How about this? So give me, what's your routine? You said you work out about 4 days a week. What's some stuff that you do in your workout routine?
So workout routine, try to get the steps in each day.
Oh, Joseph, you monitoring the steps.
I don't wear any technology.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm walking with my phone, obviously it will track my steps, but I'm not always walking with technology. I try to remove myself from any phone or watch.
Kudos to you.
Thank you. I try to. But I'm a music guy, so I do love my music. So I am walking on the treadmill with my earbuds in. But man, I got a good playlist. So yeah, I will have those in at the gym.
Do you have a treadmill at home?
No. If I had it at home, it would have laundry all over it. It wouldn't.
Expensive dry rack.
Expensive dry rack. Yeah, exactly. That's why, for me, I've got to. I can go to a place. I got to go to a place.
Yeah.
And I'm motivated that way.
That's a great talking point.
Yeah.
I wish I had some sort of data or a study to back. There's definitely some practical wisdom. Mm-hmm. And I think I got into this at some point with my wife when we had sat down and did some podcast stuff together. I think that there is some practical wisdom in having a place to go to. Mm-hmm. If you go back to the work from home movement, whenever that started, even pre-COVID, mm-hmm. I feel like there's a lot of people that started to recognize that the environment, it has this capacity to have effect on our physiology and our mindset. And what they started to run into is these people that were working from home, they couldn't dissociate their home place from their workplace. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of just their sleep started to become crap. They were like much more sort of cortisol, stress, and mm-hmm. didn't like that at all. And, a lot of people probably mold or change where they do their work at inside their house and sort of these things. But that, I could get into a lot of other, actual like data-driven things about environment and its effect on you. But mm-hmm. I think that to get the most out of your workout, if you're going to dedicate the hour, dedicate it. Yeah. So that's where I'm kind of like, I think it's fantastic. If you can't, do whatever you can, But if you're someone who has the finances to be able to get connected, to go to some classes 3 or 4 days a week, or maybe you don't get to do the classes, but if you can go there for the hour and get the most out of the hour, if you're going to spend it, like whatever you're doing, be 100% present in it. Don't be trying to like work and be at the gym. Like most of the time you go to the gym, like cut yourself loose and get after it all you can. And I think people tend on a practical sort of plane as well from a, would you say, accountability standpoint. Again, that's why I'm sort of a big proponent of now for classes. I know they're a little bit more expensive usually. Whatever gym, wherever you're going to a Mission, I'm random names that are here, but F45 or Mission Fit or CrossFit or whatever, Axis. The classes I think work really well for people. They're more expensive, but I feel like it really glues you into, you're going to show up and you're going to do this work. Yeah. Period. No matter how you feel, you just need to like scruff your neck, drag yourself through the door. And once you're there, then it's showtime. Do you know what I mean? And I would encourage people that you want to get the most out of that hour. And so I like the environment. I like the environment switch to go to the gym, put the work in at the gym, and then you get to come back home. It's probably not as big of a, it doesn't mess with you probably as much as if you happen to have your Peloton or your workout equipment at home. It's probably not as bad as that work and home sort of stress stuff that it, entangles. But, I'm all for going to the gym. I like it.
We do have a Peloton at home.
You keep talking.
And my wife uses it. I've never once sat on the bike. Don't have the shoes. Refuse to get on the bike because I'm afraid I'll like it and then I'll stay home. But I've done the circuit training videos on Peloton from time to time. But ultimately, the more I'm in the gym environment and I'm naturally talking to people, I'm working out, but at the same time, I can't just not the dude beside me. Hey man, what you curling there? I don't say that, but I make friends everywhere I go. Yeah. And so I have my gym friends and we exchange tips and ideas and, hey, how many sets, how many reps you doing? What are you doing with your upper body? I mean, you're in an environment where everyone else is in there trying. So you're going to pick up on things, and then next thing you know, you're going to have this sweet workout routine, and you're going to know what to do when you go into the gym, even if you don't do the classes.
Do you know why? I mean, do you know why I think this works so well? Like what we're doing right now, and why
tell me why.
I legitimately think, people would tune in. I think they would get a lot from this, but you start talking about things, and it's such a great opportunity to talk about whatever. You give me a little rabbit hole to run down, but community. So this is one thing for sure that's been really, I feel like, discovered. I would almost to the point of saying truly discovered in the fitness realm by CrossFit, or at least they've done it so stinking well. They've created a community around the fitness. You're talking about going to the gym and you have your gym friends, but I feel like it's another good point talking about how you sort of have, depending on how your relationships with those friends are, and do you guys go there and then end up distracting each other, not doing any work at all? But again, this is why I kind of like the classes version better in that you're all forced to like suffer during that time. And so anyhow, I don't know.
What the heck?
Anyways, I'm bleeding to death.
What is happening?
But you're in this position where you're forced to work, but I think that getting plugged in to a community of people who are also striving to be healthy, people who are going to the gym and exercising, there is a intrinsic value to that helps drive you and keeps you more consistently come back, because there's this satisfying social aspect of the fitness or the exercise that you're doing, and you're getting to meet up with people. Again, if you're not just distracting each other when you should be doing your next set, or putting in your next like whatever calories on the row, as opposed to like, hey man, and just talk about cars or whatever it is that you're going to talk about during that time. I think that community aspect is like paramount to a lot of people. Too, for confidence, I think a lot of people struggle with just going into the gym. If you're somebody who's
I used to be very self-conscious of walking in there.
Self-conscious.
I'm not going in there.
People who are sedentary, untrained, or undertrained, obese. I mean, they're going to walk in the gym. I understand they're going to walk in the gym and they're probably feeling like
uncomfortable.
Even though nobody's noticing, or nobody really cares that they're in that sense. Most of those people, believe it or not, are actually excited, depending on what gym you might go to, depends the atmosphere they create. But
most people are excited that you're there because they're another human being. They understand you're a human being and you're here pursuing the same thing they are. They're just trying to get healthy.
Yeah.
That's one thing I'll like hats off to and I'm not telling anybody to necessarily go to a CrossFit gym. So if you go to a CrossFit gym and get yourself hurt or whatever, don't blame it on me. I'm just saying that CrossFit is one sort of segment of like the fitness world where that community aspect, it's incredible. The community they build. And two, the very non-judgmental, inclusive atmosphere to where people can walk through that door, and those people are going to, overall, at least the CrossFit gyms I've been to, they are going to wrap their arms around you and bring you along and be like, "Come on, come suffer with me, brother." Like they love it. They love having someone else coming in and suffering together. But I think there's endless value in that, getting plugged in with a fitness community or just the community of people who share similar values and are also striving to be healthy.
The point is, you gotta plug in somewhere.
That's right.
You know,
maybe this is gonna be the take home today.
The take home homework
point of action today from the Cup of Joe with Joe, or whatever we're gonna name this baby.
Cup of Joe
is
shooting the breeze with Joe. That's sounds like a weatherman podcast, which I think is
take the steps to get plugged in to some sort of community-based sort of gym, in the sense where they are going to get you plugged in with a community of people that are going to gather around you, and you guys are going to strive for the same purpose. You want to become healthy for yourselves, for your kids, and for their generations.
Yeah. You got to optimize, you know?
You like that word.
Positive is how you live. Don't be negative. Positive is how you live.
So, that'll be the take home point today, I think.
Yeah, I like it.
I'm glad you came.
I'm happy to be back.
We're going to wrap this up. This is such a fun morning for me, Joe.
We hope your mornings are fun tuning in. We hope you learn a little something.
Yes. I hope that there's a decisive action step. That'll be something that would be really cool that we'll make sure that I want to make sure include in every time we do this, is a very actionable point for people. To this day, if there's anything faulty about that, you explain to me how I'm in the wrong, but I really want people to take that step, find a fitness community, and get plugged in. That's certainly one aspect of this equation about trying to be the best version of yourself and being healthy.
Yeah, and those people that have, driven down the road listening to the radio, and all of a sudden Dr. Sanjay Gupta comes on. Did you ever remember that? Dr. Sanjay Gupta, like one health tip of the day, came on every morning.
I can happily or unhappily say I should be able to know. I feel like
Sanjay Gupta, man.
That name is familiar, but I actually don't know. I've never consumed a single piece of content
from Dr. Sanjay Gupta.
Yeah,
I like saying his name.
I've never consumed a piece of content, so I have no comment whatsoever. But
you'll have to Google that one.
I feel like the name's familiar.
Yeah, when we hang up the mics, you'll have to look that one up later. And those out there listening at a certain age group know who I'm talking about. Now, probably not the younger crowd listening, but the older crowd knows about Dr. Sanjay Gupta. One tip of the day is he's like, drink room temperature water instead of ice water. You know, your body will handle it better. You know, silly.
Is this another what do you call it? Another impersonation of a South Park impersonation?
Was that Dr. Phil? That sounded like sort of
Maybe,
Dr. Phil.
But it was an impersonation of the South Park
impersonation. Yeah, it's like what was that guy's name? That was the principal. Drugs are bad and good.
I don't know. What's his name?
I don't know. I wasn't a South Park guy.
I've seen plenty of. Me neither. I saw plenty of South Park content and cuts, but I couldn't tell their names. I wasn't some religious or cult follower at all.
No, I wasn't either. If it was cartoons, I'm not watching cartoons. Maybe Family Guy for a minute.
Joe, thank you for being here. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. I hope that you got something from us today. We will certainly be back in your ears. Join us.
Signing off. See ya. Just subscribe. I'm gonna click the link below because you're gonna like this. Boy, I mean, we could go on and on and on.
It's a lot.
So click the link below and subscribe.